Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being on the SPC Informational webinar tonight. My name is Rachel Endicott. I'm on staff here at the American Simmental Association, and I'm going to be taking a larger role in the SPC contest this year. I just came on staff in January of this year, so I'm looking forward to getting to know some of you more and meeting some others of you as well. Also on the line here, mostly for my moral support, are Dr. Jackie Atkins and Mr. Chip Kemp, and so they may chime in throughout the evening as well. So again, thanks so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and we'll just kind of get started here. So as many of you may have seen, our SPC mission is to provide our junior members meaningful exposure to those opportunities and challenges associated with cattle feeding. And so this is certainly an industry that a lot of adult beef cattle participants don't have as much experience with. So this is a pretty cool opportunity for you as a junior member. Basically, the mission here is to allow you as participants in the SPC contest to measure and compare the profitability of your animal or animals, and introduce you to a unique network of individuals and experiences that many folks, many generations older than you, don't have that, often even have that experience. And so hopefully, if you're going to participate in our program here, you're going to have a powerful voice as you transition to adult participation in our industry. So here's just a 30,000-foot view of what the SPC program will look like for the 2018-2019 year. So all steers will be fed at the University of Missouri on the GrowSafe feed intake system throughout the project. And so for those of you who might not be familiar with it, we'll look at a couple of pictures here later in the slides. But a GrowSafe system allows individual animals' intake to be measured. Those animals can live together in a pen with other animals. They have an EID in their ear, and there's a scale underneath the feed bunk. And so each time that animal puts their head in the bunk, there's weights being taken throughout. And so their EID in their ear signals the system that they are going to have a meal at that bunk, and we'll be able to then measure individual intake on all of those steers from start to finish. So then we'll have monthly weights that are taken on the steers as well, and so you have a powerful amount of data on your animals where you get both individual gain and individual intake data. So one other thing that will continue this year is a monthly newsletter. So for SPC participants, we'll have a newsletter that goes out a week before each webinar, and that will contain education, information, and announcements. We'll have that monthly webinar, so we'll be meeting on the first Tuesdays of the month, probably starting in November. And we'll talk, timely topics that have to do with what's going on Feedyard-wise, where your steers are, what kind of updates. Chip will probably be able to give us some updates on cattle performance, and we'll have reminders about things. And as before, there will be a feedback assignment due after each webinar, and we'll talk about how that's going to be a little bit different and new this year in a few minutes. And then each participant will receive a monthly detailed bill for each steer, and you'll be paying through the ASA system, so you'll log on to HerdBook to pay your bill, and you'll have that detailed bill so you'll be able to see all the costs split out as far as feed or medication costs and the like. So then the steers at the end of the contest are marketed, and the participants are paid based on carcass grade and yield. And so how those steers are going to hang out and what the carcass grid looks like at that time of marketing is how participants will be paid. So as promised, new this year, we decided to shake up the feedback formats a little bit each month, and so they'll be different. So it's not always going to be a one-page summary of the webinar. We'll have different types of feedback. So for example, we might have some short essay questions with prompts. We might have an infographic or a social media post creation. So we might say, if we have a webinar about USDA marketing, or we talk about how the grid prices are calculated. So we talk about premiums and discounts. Well, we might then say, you know, as participants, you guys, your feedback assignment for this month is to create an infographic or a social media post that describes what you learned in this topic. So hopefully we'll be able to, we'll probably still have a couple of half to 1 page summaries. We've also tossed around the idea, I think we'll probably have some short online quizzes that would be tailored to participant age. That's certainly some feedback that we've gotten from previous participants, and it is certainly one of the more challenging pieces of this, of a contest of this, or a competition of this magnitude, is to try to tailor things for folks, because we've got often participants from 8 years old on up to 21, and so we're trying to make it valuable for everyone and tailor a little bit more towards those participant ages. So we'll probably continue to work in the 3 age groups that we have in our AJSA contest, like at the Classics, but we'll try to tailor a little bit more to those age groups as we go throughout the year. So if we think about what does the participant agree to when they're going to participate in this contest, you must hold an active AJSA membership. You agree to meet all deadlines and all cattle requirements. We'd like you to have your animals entered in our system, both in herd book for the steer themselves and in the entry form that you can find on the SPC page on the AJSA webpage by Friday of this week, September 28th. You'll maintain ownership of your steer throughout till the end, but you'll forfeit possession of him at delivery. So you'll hand him over to the University of Missouri Feedyard management crew. Self-explanatory here, but just a reminder that the SPC is a terminal contest. Steers will be harvested at the discretion of the Feedyard when Feedyard management feels they're ready. And then you also, as a participant, agree to a mandatory monthly webinar and to return your monthly feedback assignments. Again, as we said, they'll be different throughout the year each month. And then you as a participant also agree to the agreement that your steer will be marketed on a grade and yield basis, and you as a participant will be paid accordingly. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about what the steer requirements are. Okay, so you can see in this picture, you've got the grow safe bunks. In the background of the picture, those 2 gray bunks, you can see those little bars only allow 1 animal to put their head in at a time. So steers have EID tags in their ears, and so when they stick their head in through those bars to eat out of that gray bunk, then they're going to be sent into the GrowSafe computer and keep track of how much they eat. So our online entry form is very simple. It's a Google form. You can enter up to 3 steers per online entry form. If you wish to enter a pen of 3, you should enter the 3 cattle you want to have in that pen on the same form. No heifers are accepted in the contest. We do have a $50 per head entry fee for each steer entered. And so the steers that you enter must be entered in the ASA database. And so along with that, at least 1 parent animal must be registered in the ASA database. So here, closer to the end of the slide deck, we'll talk a little bit more about how one goes about putting an animal on file, entering them in the ASA database, and the like. So this is a spring calf contest. So the birth date range for calves to be eligible is January 15th through April 15th of this year, with calves weaned between August 15th and October 15th of this year. Castration has to happen prior to weaning. The steers, we're looking for a weight range of 500 to 750 pounds at delivery, the first part of November. And then the steers have to be polled or dehorned. So no horned steers will be accepted. And any breed composition is welcome, as long as the above requirements that we've talked about are met. So how about health and preconditioning? What do you need to do as a participant to get your steer ready to head to the University of Missouri. So first, we'd ask that you consult your local veterinarian to visit with them more about an effective vaccination protocol prior to delivery. Many of you, I'm assuming, are going to already have that well in hand and well in place on your operation. Be nice to have, we need the steers to have some internal dewormer by October 15th of this year. We'd like them to test negative for BVD PI, so that's another thing you can visit with your veterinarian about, getting that PI test. Of course, health papers will be required for interstate shipment, and we are looking for healthy calves only. I'm not really worried about this with this group, but certainly our ASA screener, who will probably be Chip, has the right to reject unhealthy or unfit animals at delivery. The Feedyard implant strategy is solely a Feedyard decision, and so those folks that are managing these cattle at the University of Missouri are going to be able to set that implant strategy as they see fit. Regardless, all steers will be vaccinated upon Feedyard entry. So again, having them set up with an effective vaccination protocol at home is a really good idea. So how about delivery? How is this going to work? So we at ASA will coordinate a collection route. And so our attempt is to try to keep the maximum distance for you as a participant to travel to less than 250 miles. And we'll say attempt. It just kind of depends on where the steers are coming from and what that kind of looks like. We don't, of course, have all those details yet, as we don't know where all the steers are coming from. But again, we'll do our best. So you as a participant would be responsible for delivering those calves to that regional collection point if you're far enough away that you wouldn't deliver them to the University of Missouri yourself. So if you are close to Columbia and you have a way to get those calves to Chip has worked with the folks there on campus to set these delivery dates of November 2nd and 3rd from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now, you can let us know. We'll have contact information at the end of the slides here. You guys can let us know. If you're still able to deliver to Mizzou, but you can't make these 2 days work, let us know and we'll kind of see if we can't work out something alternatively. But these are the dates that we've got set so far if you're in the area. All right, so then after we get the cattle delivered and we've got them in the yard, all feed yard decisions are going to be at the discretion of the University of Missouri Feed Yard Management Team. Tentatively, these cattle will be harvested at Cargill Meat Solutions in Schuyler, Nebraska. And the harvest date is also at the discretion of the feed yard. And so based on how things kind of went last year, which was our first year at the University of Missouri, we're thinking approximately April and May of next year, these calves will be ready to go. So financial responsibilities. What sort of financial responsibility do you as the participant have? Well, if you're not already a member of the AJSA, you'd have some membership dues, okay? And if you have a parent animal, if your steer does not already have a parent animal on file registered with us at ASA, those costs will also be incurred. The entry fee, as we mentioned, of $50 per head. And then the delivery of animals to that regional collection point. So monthly feed and health bill. So the idea here is that on the 15th of each month, that feed bill will be emailed to you. It's applied to your AJSA account. And then you have 15 days to pay that bill. So we email those bills out on the 15th and they're due on the 30th or last day of each month. And then, of course, we have our disclaimer that pre-harvest death or injury of animals may occur, and that's a risk that we're going to ask you to be accepting of. All right, so this is the steer profitability competition. So how are we going to determine that? Well, each steer will receive an initial valuation. So we'll think of what is the value of this steer as he enters the feedlot. Okay, so that'll be based on his weight when he gets there. And then the USDA Ag Marketing Service report data for that time period, right? So for the first part of November, what are calf prices? And in those weight ranges, we'll be able to say this calf is worth this many dollars, okay? And we'll include that kind of as a cost. So we're kind of running this as an enterprise, as if you were a cattle feeding enterprise and you had to go buy calves at the sale barn or in the country or over a video auction, and those calves have that value is that calf cost to the cattle feeding enterprise. Then costs will be accrued from delivery through harvest. So again, feed, medicine, implants, vaccinations, etc. And then the final value of that steer will be based on total carcass price. So again, based on what's going on in the market and what the plant has to offer for premiums and discounts in regard to how the cattle grade and yield, then we'll have a final value based on that total carcass price. And so we'll probably, for the purposes of the competition itself, we'll probably then go ahead and average that base price, premiums and discounts over the harvest period. So it could be that depending on how many steers we get, and how they are performing, okay, it's certainly possible to have quite a bit of variation in this group of animals, that we might have for example, 2 different days or times that we send calves to Schuyler to Cargill to be harvested. And so we would go ahead for the purposes of the contest and average those over each time that those cattle, we send a delivery of these cattle to Cargill. We'll be able to average those prices, premiums, and discounts. And so that the SPC profitability then is equal to that final valuation that we have based on that carcass price, and we take those accrued costs away. So not only those costs from the feed yard of feed and medicine and vaccine, but also that cost of that initial steer, and like I said, we're going to treat this kind of as an enterprise. So I've kind of talked a lot about what you as a participant would kind of give or need to have ready to enter steers in this contest. So what are you going to get back? So what kind of information return will you get? So I want to be very clear here that participants will only receive their steer SPC tag numbers. Okay, so we're not going to have a spreadsheet. There is no spreadsheet that goes out and says steer 1 belongs to John Doe. Okay, each of you as a participant, you say you have 3 steers, and so I will email you, and we'll say your steers are 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and I'll email the next participant, and their steers might be 13, 14, and 15. Okay, but other participants will not be able to identify your calf by your tag number because they'll only receive tag numbers for their own calf. Now we will go ahead and keep kind of an updated log on the SPC webpage of the calves' performance throughout the year and throughout the feeding period, but they'll just be by tag number, and so you'll be able to find your calf, but you won't know whose calves are whose based on that tag number. Again, you'll also get some information returned through our monthly webinars, so we try pretty hard to make those have a variety of different topics. We try to kind of focus on timeliness, a lot of times based on what stage of the feeding period your calves are in. So at the beginning, we might talk some more about how we might talk about receiving calf nutrition and health and how we take care of calves that come into the feedlot, what things we can do at home to make sure they're in the best shape possible heading into the feed yard. As we get closer to finish, we can talk some more about things like how are carcasses graded and what does that look like and what are quality grades and yield grades. You'll also receive a monthly newsletter, and so that again will probably have a topic. Once we know who the webinar speaker will be, we can certainly feature them and give you a bio about that individual. Try to maybe expand a little bit in that monthly newsletter about the topic. So provide you some extra information about the topic of that month's webinar. And then we're also tossing around the idea that it might be kind of fun for each participant to give a little bit of a background on them, and we might have a SPC participant feature in each newsletter as well. Then, of course, the big bonus here is that you'll receive final Feedyard and carcass performance data. Okay, we won't distribute the final results until all the steers are harvested, so there could be a little bit of a lag near the end of the contest, but certainly we'll be able to take a look at that data, and that's a valuable piece of information certainly going forward. So what about results and awards? So you can see in this picture here, we have a picture of Chip, and one of our SPC participants from last year who won the 3rd overall steer. And so we gave out awards for the first time last year at the National Classic. We'll continue that this year. That'll be the 2019 National Classic Awards Banquet in Louisville, Kentucky, the last week of July. And so the awards that we hand out are for the top 3 animals, so the individual steers overall, the top 3 pens of 3 overall, and then the top monthly feedback assignment participant. And so, again, those feedback assignments matter, and we do really encourage you to get those in a timely manner. So let's talk a little bit more about the how-tos. So, for example, if you're not yet an AJSA member, I'll kind of walk you through some screenshots and show you a little bit about how we can do that. So if you go to the juniorsimmental.org webpage and you hover over About AJSA, which you can see here on the screen is covering Junior Trustee Teagan Mackey's face, and you see the blue arrow pointing to the words Join the AJSA. So if you click on that, you'll be able to, you'll see it'll pop up a membership application. It's a paper application. We do require a paper application for AJSA members, as we do need a parent signature on that. Certainly the folks in processing would be more than happy to help you process that. Erica Tinetti is an awesome membership coordinator here for the ASA, and so she'd be able to help you out with that. All right, so once you kind of have that going and you have an AJSA membership number, how can you put your steers on file? And what does that even mean? Okay, so steers on file, they don't need to be registered, okay? They just need to be placed in our database, okay? And so one parent animal has to be registered, okay? So if it's another breed, you can foundation register an animal with us, and that would count as one parent animal registered with ASA. Okay, and so there's a great tutorial in the Profit Through Data blog. So if you go to our herdbook page at herdbook.org and you click on the Profit Through Data blog icon, it'll take you through some steps, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here's the main herdbook page. And so it's herdbook.org, and you can see here the blue arrow is pointing to this little icon that has a black bull, okay, and it says Profit Through Data underneath him, that image. So if you click on that Profit Through Data blog, you'll come here to this homepage of that blog, and you can see the featured article right at the moment is about registering a foundation animal. Okay, so if you have a foundation animal from another breed that you'd like to be the registered parent animal for your steer, that's what you can tune in right there, and that'll give you kind of a step-by-step way to go about that. And then secondly, down here underneath on the right-hand side, you can see the blue arrows pointing to your how to put an animal on file. So that will walk you step-by-step through how to put that SPC steer into the system, into that database, so that we can keep track and be able to monitor that steer through our database system. Okay, so then we've got those steps. We have an AJSA membership, and we've gone ahead and we've put that steer on file, and we have a one parent animal registered. How do I then let the folks at ASA, so how do I let Rachel, Jackie, and Chip know that I want to put a steer in the Feedyard at the University of Missouri? And so, again, you'll go to the juniorsimmental.org, the AJSA, or the Junior Simmental webpage, and then you can click, you can see there's an SPC logo or icon across the top, in the top menu there. So if you click on that SPC menu item, you'll head to our SPC contest page. And if you scroll down a little ways, you'll see we have a box that has blue and green boxes there. It's a little table. The top one in the blue boxes says register here. And so if you click on that link, it'll take you to a Google form. You'll be able to enter all the pertinent details about you as the participant and your steer or steers that you'd like to enter. Then once you submit that Google form, it'll populate a spreadsheet for us. We'll be able to log in and see where you're at. And then that's how we'll have you in our system, know how to contact you about getting your cattle delivered, and we'll just kind of go on from there. All right, so now that we've kind of walked through all of those steps, now we're kind of to the point of, all right, I'm entered. Okay, I've got all of those pieces taken care of, now what? Okay, all right, so the next few steps to think about would be to visit with your local veterinarian. You're going to want to talk about health papers for transport. You're going to want to ask your veterinarian to help you with a test for BVD. Okay, so persistently infected bovine viral diarrhea. Okay, so again, those steers have to test negative. Okay, so keep an eye on your email. Once we get you kind of registered in the system, we'll send out an email regarding those regional pickup locations with some dates and times for you to have ready at hand. Okay, and then we'll ask you to transport your steers to those pickup locations on the correct day and time. Okay, that's important. If you miss the truck on that day and time, you're going to be responsible for getting that calf all the way to Columbia, Missouri. And then we'd ask you to attend the monthly meetings and complete your feedback assignments. And so, in general, the webinars are going to be the first Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m. Mountain, and the recording will be posted probably the next day. So we'd sure love to have you tune in live. We have an opportunity for you to use the chat box in the webinar to interact with us and with our speakers throughout the year. But we understand that you guys are an elite group of young people who are involved in many activities, and it might not be able to always tune in. And so we have those recordings up there for you to go back and look at. Furthermore, we also use those recordings as material to write the Cattlemen's and Quiz and Genetic Evaluation Quiz for the National and Regional Classics. We'd like then your feedback assignment to be turned in by 1 week post webinar. So if we have the webinar on the first Tuesday, we'd like to have your feedback assignment, whatever it is for that month, back on the second Tuesday by 6 p.m. Mountain. And we're pretty serious about that. If you miss more than one monthly feedback assignment, that will eliminate you from our program. One thing I will say that the Christmas and New Year's this year are on a Tuesday. So I want to assure you now that the January webinar will not be on New Year's Day. It'll be on the second Tuesday. But looking at the calendar, all the rest, we're in pretty good shape to have the first Tuesday of each month. So we have a calendar feature on the SPC webpage that has dates and reminders. So back on that SPC page, you can see on the right-hand side of that table in the green section, there's a link to SPC important dates. And if you click on that link, that'll take you to a calendar. You can put that calendar feature by monthly. You can also have it in a list that would give you all of the dates. And so we've populated that calendar, and as we move along here, we'll continue to keep updating that with more detail as we might need to. So that's a quick look at the SPC program. We certainly look forward to working with you and having you enter your steers. At this time, we'd be happy to take any questions. If you have questions, please go ahead and use your chat window to ask those questions of us. You can also contact us through the SPC email at spc@simgene.com, or you can call the main office here and ask to speak with me, with Rachel, about the SPC program, and I'd be happy to visit with you. So with that, we'll take any questions that you might have, and certainly Jackie and Chip, if you have anything that you'd like to add here, please feel free to do so.
Rachel, this is Chip. I might just add, for those who didn't participate with us in the past, especially last year, University of Missouri and the Feedyard manager there, Kenneth Lademan, they did a phenomenal job of feeding cattle last year. I mean, flat phenomenal. Go back and look at some of the data that's on that SPC link at the Junior Simmental website. Those cattle gained at rates that you're not going to get in a lot of feed yard settings. And so that was in large part due to the genetics that young people provided, the health of those calves, but certainly also very attributable to the efforts of the staff there at the University of Missouri. So you can rest assured that they're going to do their part to help your calves succeed. The other thing I would let you all know is, frankly, we want to be able to have as many young folks participate in this sort of program as possible. So not only those of you on this webinar, but if you have friends or family members, encourage them to consider, even if they're involved in other breed types. Dr. Endicott showed you very clearly how those cattle could get in and be used in this program, so that's no problem at all. And also for some of you, those of you that are a little bit older and you're in an FFA program, mention this to your ag advisor. There are a lot of your peers who would love to get a taste of this, maybe in your local ag chapter, of understanding what feeding cattle is all about. And we'd be honored to help participate with those folks as well. So anyway, just throwing that out there. If you know other folks who might benefit from this, please let them know.
Great. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for taking time. I do see I have a question here about if the weekend of November 2nd would be an option if you're interested in delivering steers directly to Columbia. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I'll make a note that was a question that came up, and we'll visit with the folks at the feed yard there at the University of Missouri, and we'll see if we can't make that happen.
And Rachel, again, this is Chip, yes. And they have been very gracious to extend the offer that if there's a different day that's just absolutely crucial and necessary to make it work for you, they will find a way to make that doable. So they're going out of their way and going to extra lengths. So if somebody needs that, I bet they can make that happen.
Perfect.
Rachel, I don't know if you saw, there looked like there was another question about the webinars, whether or not they're available afterwards. So you might want to talk to them about the recordings and how that works.
Yep, so the webinars are recorded automatically, including this one. Okay, so we'll get those. They'll be posted on the SPC page again. You'll be able to go back to that archive and rewatch as you need to, and include. So this one's recorded as well. So if you have friends that you think might be interested, who have some questions or who want to learn more about it, we'll get that posted. You can direct them to the link for this informational webinar, and you can watch that. Have them watch that to get all the info that they need. Thanks, Jackie. All right, well, with that then, I think we'll go ahead and finish up for the evening. Please do let us know if you have any questions. Again, that spc@simgene.com is a great way to get a hold of us, or if you want to visit on the phone, you can call here at the main office and ask for Rachel. Be happy to visit with you about that. So look forward to seeing your entries come in. And remember that we'd like to get those in by the end of the day on Friday this week. So we're looking forward to it. Again, please don't hesitate to call or email if you have questions. With that, we'll sign off. Everyone have a wonderful evening.